Previously in my channel, I did the following table with all the shell types and switch skill combinations. But I didn't go into creating the particular styles of each combination and how they could be used. This is that video. I provide the 8 combinations with enough differences to be called playing style with particular identities and focusing in particular moves or gimmicks. All these are viable and strong in their particular circumstances. I also provide with this video a resume table with each one. You can see it in the description and the comments. And of course, since there are 24 actual combinations, this list is not final and can evolve depending on discoveries and new stuff introduced in future expansions. I'm not any kind of Gunlance god and only can see the present. I will also create a video dedicated to every of these styles with all the optimal Gunlances and armor builds. Subscribe if you like what you see here and don't want to miss these. Style 1 Stakelance. Long worm stake spam. Let's get the most known style out of the way. If there is something that can be called a meta in Gunlance right now, it is this. Wormstaker is all based around the concept of abusing the charged shell into wormstake combo as much as possible while defending yourself thanks to guard reload. This style is good at everything: attack, utility and defense. Attack is not top because other options, especially Slaplance against some targets, can do more damage. But nothing beat this in terms of all-around good damage and simplicity to build. The only damage skill you really need with this is artillery. Even load up is optional, although is highly recommended because with it you can find yourself out of shells at the wrong moments. When not wormstaking, the long's extra range is very useful to keep doing damage while you wait for your chance. Don't worry about wasting your shells because you only need one shell in the chamber to initiate the combo. I highly recommend rounding this play style with Wirebug Whisperer and Guard. Wirebug Whisperer allows you to recover and use your guard edge and ground splitter more often. Guard reload is almost mandatory in this build because of the huge synergy with Wormstake. There is a huge window of time after performing a Wormstake where you can initiate the guard reload. After doing a WS, observe the monster and wait for its attack to guard reload. With enough points in guard you can absorb the attack and do a charged shell into Wormstake again. This style also can work with wide Gunlance, especially with Corn Popper, but wide Wormstake is considerably weaker and wide has a lot of potential in. Style 2, Stunlance. Wide poke shell and Wormstake. Wide Gunlance with the previous setup but with gameplay based around using pokes and shells in addition to the Wormstake. Compared with the Wormstaker, this style loses Wormstake damage but gains the WS stun and most important, a stronger neutral game. Poke shells are strong and fast. You can dish a lot of damage quickly without risk. The trick to keep the damage up is mastering the timing of the poke shell. Hitting the shell button the very moment the poke comes out causes you to shell in that instant with 0 delay. This makes all your pokes do shell damage for free. When you have not dominated the timing, I recommend to double tap the shell button after every poke. If you hit the shell button too early, no shell will come out. Hitting the shell twice makes sure when trying to perfect frame the shell will come out for sure. You also could use a controller with turbo like the Hori split pad. This style has higher requirements of both player and armor skills. This only shines when you can have both artillery skills plus a couple of attack skills. Since you are doing a lot of quick attacks, you also will need sharpness support skills. At the very least bring speed sharpening 3 with you since is a level 1 skill and you can use your spare slots with it. Protective polish is better than razor sharp when using a Gunlance with blue or white sharpness. Blue and white sharpness are a bigger damage upgrade than anything but 100% affinity, and protective polish allows you to keep it for just 3 skill points. Razor sharp combines very well with guard edge to keep you sharp. Hey! Finally, use Wormstake whenever you see the chance to land it in the head. You can easily get up to 2 stuns per hunt. Using the Slugger skill will help you get the second one. But even with a Slugger, don't expect to stun the monster more than twice at best. Like with Wormstaker, your main means of defense is guard reload. You can help the timing for using it by throwing a charged shell instead of a single shell. You can release the button whenever you want and quickly go for guarding. If you find all this too complicated, you can dish the Wormstake and go for Style 3. Pokelance. Wide pure poke shell. When you forget about using a charged shell into Wormstake at all, you get liberated of charged shells. And guard reload and can go into using blast dash and quick reload. You can still use Wormstake after guard edging and using ground splitter. You can still get 1 stun every hunt. Since you lose guard reload, making smart use of your extended hops to blindside monsters and mastering guard edge are essential to make it work. Quick reload has a higher damage output than guard reload, provided you don't waste too much time evading. Basically, QR can be cancelled into a shell before it ends, and this allows for more hits in less time. I should do a DPS comparison of these. Finally, the addition of Blast Dash allows you to get into melee range a lot faster. If you press X twice while flying, you will do a very fast air slam and follow it with an almost instant poke. You don't have to full burst after a slam from Blast Dash. Since you are doing even more attacks quickly, you need even more sharpness support than before. Evade window also meshes very well with this style. Style 4. Slaplance. No shelling, only melee. Warning. Warning. Strong bias against this style detected in the author of the video. This thing is back again and Rise refusing to just die. There are circumstances where shelling is inadequate compared with using a gunlance like a greatsword, then can't do any kind of charged attacks. In Rise in particular, there is a certain yellow monster that should be not named or talked about with a 90% hit zone when normally monsters have hit zones of up to 70%. This monster also makes it impossible to keep ground splitter active, since it needs platforming and that disactives ground splitter. This makes melee attacks 30% plus melee attacks stronger and shelling a 20% less powerful, and shifts the power balance, making melee optimal. This style also will get stronger with the typical DLC power creep, where melee attack skills will be easier to get. Diablos Gunlance with white sharpness and protective polish is a force to be reckoned. Slaplance takes its name in what is based on using the Gunlance moves that loops like you are slapping monsters around. Upswing, slam, and sweep. Never focus on using pokes with this style because poke shelling is way more powerful, since you are adding shell damage, basically doubling the damage output. You also suffer of just 2 shells with this style. The switch skills that most synergy with melee only are Blast Dash, Hail Cutter, and Quick Reload. Blast Dash allows you to reach your opponent faster. Sadly, the slam can't be followed up by a sweep. The fastest way into melee combo is Blast Dash, slam, Quick Reload, and slam again. Hail Cutter and Ground Splitter are both kinda weak here. Hail Cutter is more useful here because you can use it from Blast Dash. Air Hail Cutter is the strongest melee movement of Gunlance with a very high motion value. The slam from Air Hail Cutter also can be followed up by sweep. Here, Hail Cutter has an advantage over Ground Splitter. Ground Splitter is good because of the super armor and can go into slam. But most of the time you should just use Guard Edge, that has a quicker recovery and doesn't make you take damage. Guard Reload only allows you to poke or upswing after using it and is slower than Quick Reload. Only use Guard Edge for defending or make good use of evasion skills. Because of its nature, the #1 priority when using this style are melee and sharpness support skills. Evade Extender is as godlike as always. You may take points in artillery for making Wormstake finishers, but in general you will not have enough skills to spare. Finally, consider using Blast Dash into slam at point blank if you want to avoid attacks from bouncing. But why are you attacking bad hit zones with this? In general, you can steal the meta build for any other weapon, slap some Evade Extender there, and call it a day. The usual gunlances used for this style are Diablos and Admiral. Admiral is better all around, but 100% requires sharpness support because it loses hard once out of blue. You can also consider using on specific targets weapons with X exploit ramp out skills. They provide big damage bonuses against the correct target. I'm still researching the best weapon for each circumstance. I will cover them in the Slaplance style focused video. Style 5. Burstlance. Normal full burst spam. Normal Gunlance conventional style. Traditionally you would hop or run to the enemy and then do a running lunge into slam and full burst. But things are different now. Why run when you can fly? Unless you are at a blank point, always initiate the combo with a Blast Dash. Blast Dash, then mid-air slam and full burst. This is quick, fast and effective. What you do next is where the skill is here. You may back hop, full reload and repeat. Go for a worm stake if you have clear aim to a weak point. Go for a sweep, quick reload and slam into full burst again for big sustained damage. All depend on how greedy you can get in your target. The most you full burst without moving the better. On general default into slam, full burst and back hop if you don't want to get hit in a silly way too often. This style requires a skill set very similar to the wide ones but with more emphasis and sharpness. Rathian's GL starts with blue. Blue is a 14% raw increase over green. Bludgeon is 10% and weakness exploit 12.5%. All these are 3 points. In conclusion, full burst and rise has a lot of emphasis in hit and run tactics with a lot of damage potential when the chance happens. Style 6. Wyvernlance. Wyvern fire spam. This can be considered the long shelling type version of Burstlance. You can in fact play as a Burstlance with this setup, but there is a perk here. Wyvern fire in long does 4 hits instead of 3. 33% more power. And that is enough to make for the lack of ground splitter. As long as you have 3 bugs with you. For making this style work you need 2 extra things, Wirebug Whisperer and Palico Summon Endemic Life. The first makes the extra bug last for 27 more seconds, 1 minute 57 seconds, and the second is a Wirebug Dispenser. If you carry with you 2 Palicos you will always have an extra bug for sure. You totally need guard 3 or 5 to be able to Wyvern fire through most attacks. The big concentrated Wyvern fire damage and its pushback makes it safe to use in almost every single situation. This style of course has issues against monsters who use attacks that pushes you even with guard 5. Also ground hail cutter sucks being slow and very U-safe. Most of the time you should be using the air version. The ground version is only good if you use to replace a recharge or just after a Wyvern fire since it can cut a good chunk of the recovery. I have experimented how even giving up ground splitter 20% damage this can compare in damage because how massive is a Wyvern fire attack that does 450 damage anywhere. Give it a try. Style 7. Freelance. Jack of all trades. Master of none. This is not really a style but a lack of style. There are those kinds of people who just want to do everything without restrictions. They want charged shells into WS. They want to slam full burst, they want to Wyvern fire, they want to poke and shell, they want everything. They don't want top damage, they just want fun and freedom. The shell type that allows all this is long. Long is good at full bursting. Long also has the strongest worm stake and Wyvern fire. Howitzer Gunlance is even half decent with poke shelling if you stack enough attack skills. The trade is that you have not blast dash and that for decent melee you need decent attack skills. This is the kind of build that will shine more with the expansions once you have more freedom to build. You also have to pick between Hail Cutter and Ground Splitter. Ground Splitter is no doubt the strongest option. 20% extra shelling damage is 20% extra shelling damage. But Hail Cutter will allow you to use Wyvern fire more often, being a truer jack of all trades, master of none style. Do yourself a favor and pick Wirebug Whisperer and use a Palico with Summon Endemic Life here. Style 8. Airlance. Normal Wirebug focused aerial style. The final style and the most experimental of all. For those who want to fly and use their Wirebug and blast dash to the max. This is made for normal because the stronger air options and synergies with blast dash. Every kind of air attack is preceded by an air shell. Normal with the biggest clip is the one that loses less damage in the air. Since this is meant to use a lot of Wirebug to fly and move around, you are not keeping Ground Splitter active and Hail Cutter benefits more. The grounded version that only uses Blast Dash for air moves is the Full Burst one. This setup is also a lot like the Wyvern Firer style but is more focused in doing full bursts over Wyvern Fire. Wyvern Fire here is in fact pretty weaker than when you use long. Use it as a guarding move more than a way of attacking. This style favors fighting quick monsters who don't stop in any place or require a lot of platforming. When you are in the ground close to the monster you function like a normal full burst style. The advantage of using Wirebugs instead of Blast Dash is you aren't expanding shells to move around and have a lot more control. You can also initiate at shell less. If you have 3 Wirebugs you can recharge mid-air with a Hail Cutter. To make this work, you need Quick Sheath and Wirebug Whisperer. because this is harder to build than most other styles and the benefit is minor. This is why I have buried it as the last style. By the way, you can still ledge slam spam with blast dash. Another thing that refuses to die. And these are all the styles. I'm missing something? Let me know in the comments and we'll consider adding it to the list. I'm also going to run a poll with the styles. I will do the in-depth video of each style in the order you vote. Thanks for watching. And see you in the hunt.